Common Side Effects is my favorite show on television right now. Why? Made by Joe Bennett, one of the minds of the underrated sci-fi series Scavenger's Reign. If you haven't seen it, please go watch that show. It's incredible. Some of the best world building I've ever seen in anything ever. And Steve Healy. This show, Common Side Effects, navigates government conspiracy, big pharma, jealousy, betrayal, corruption, unrequited love, hallucinations, and the question if it's always a good idea to help when you have the means to. All using the story vehicle of a blue mushroom found in Peru that can heal any injury, physical or mental, but with the price to pay that is unknown. Our main character, Marshall, is on a journey confusing to himself, finding the blue mushroom growing in Peru and meeting and claiming his now pet tortoise, Socrates. Shortly after finding the mushroom, he is almost killed by what the audience assumes to be the government, crashing in a plane and presumed dead. Before the crash, Marshall ingests the mushroom and hopes for the best. In this moment, we are hit with our first dream, nightmare, hallucination sequence. I wish I could explain the symbolism or themes in each of these sequences, but I would have to analyze so much closer and for a while to fully follow. Please, anyone in the comments, if you have seen the show, you are welcome to share your thoughts on what those scenes mean to you or what you were able to pick up in the symbolism, because perspective is key. When he awakes, Marshall is in the crashed plane, alive and able to escape, grabbing the mushrooms and Socrates and fleeing to find help, which is where he meets Francis, an old lab partner from high school and an assumed crush of his. The story and themes of Common Side Effects can be whittled down to these two characters and how they see the world. Marshall, a world-traveling herbalist seeking something that could change the world and its systems that he finds aiding in humanity's sickness, and Francis, an assistant to the CEO of Reutical Pharmaceutical, the main medicinal company of the story, feeling stuck at her job, relationship, and personal development. Seeing Marshall's discovery as a way out of monotony and into a life of riches that she thinks she deserves because of her sacrifices. Both of each other's stories flowing in and out of each other through choice or circumstance in the first season. Throughout the show, Marshall is constantly betrayed by everyone he trusts because of the power of this mushroom. Either through ingesting themselves or seeing the effects on others, people change after seeing how this can affect the world. Marshall being the only human we see staying somewhat sane in himself, despite his close proximity to this world-changing drug. But as his journey goes on, and the more darkness and danger he encounters, the world begins to corrupt him as well, even if he doesn't see it. One of the only things keeping him together throughout this is reconnecting with Francis, despite those feelings not being exactly mutual. Francis is calculated and yet extremely emotional, which makes her arc throughout the first season interesting and confusing, trying to pinpoint what she truly feels. Francis cares for Marshall, that's obvious to me, but her need for self-preservation is more important than anything else. Living in a world very similar to ours, I think Francis represents the average adult struggling to find peace after leaving the structure of schooling and after life has hit you with many difficult challenges, one of hers being her mom having Lewy body dementia, which is a driving force for all of her choices in her career and when she meets Marshall. Francis goes from being likable to very unlikable to likable again, depending on how your perspective is, because of how she manipulates Marshall, knowing how he feels for her without it ever being explicitly said. Marshall is the dumbest around Francis because he thinks with his heart when she is around, while Francis plots her next step even if her calculations inevitably leave her in the negative. We will see in season 2 how their relationship develops. I assume their connection will be extremely tested going into the next season. I will say that I do not fully believe in their love story, even though I do believe that they love each other, or at least have love for each other by the end. One of the coolest things about this show to me is its choice to pair characters together. The story doesn't just follow Marshall and Francis through the story. There are so many strange and enjoyable characters and story beats to follow, and I appreciate that the writing puts characters in pairs to challenge both perspectives and morality. My favorite pairing in the show being Capano and Harrington, two DEA agents who are assigned by them, as the show would put it, the case to find Marshall and the drug. Throughout the 10 episodes, these two close partners are tested, not just internally, but with each other. As Capano, my favorite character, starts to connect the dots that their superiors don't want them to look at, seeing the cog he is in this capitalist machine and not wanting to play his part in it anymore, while Harrington sees everything that Capano sees, and yet wants to hold on to the reality that she has crafted for herself. Both characters having a lot of love and respect for each other, having honest conversations about what direction they should go in, and if being partners by the end is the best for both of them. Jonas and Cesaly is another pairing that is more elusive, but I think is also very important to the story. Jonas Backstein seeming like the big bad of the show in the beginning, nicknamed the Wolf. Jonas is a board member of Ryutical Pharmaceutical, being Francis's boss's boss, who is aware of what Marshall is doing and enlists Cesaly, his former assistant, now Deputy National Security Director, to snuff out Marshall's fire and capture the mushroom by any means before it changes the systematic nature of their country forever. Jonas is the man, the powers that be, that Marshall refers to without ever knowing truly whom. The great thing about this show is that it flips that on its head by making Jonas the weakest he can be after achieving his goal, and feeling regret for his choices. No spoiling, but where his character goes is fascinating when speaking on perspective and if the glass is half full or empty. And while Cesaly and Jonas normally are talking on the phone, their fates are tied together willingly or not. I like that Cesaly represents what Francis wants to be, a woman who started as an assistant and clawed and leveraged her experience and work ethic to become one of the most powerful people in the story. And yet, she is still beholden to the man who gave her her start, despite not really wanting to be connected to him at all. But the darkness she possesses makes her Jonas's greatest asset. Now, for my tinfoil hat theory, spoilers and theories incoming for season 2 and just the overall plot. So, spoiler warning, hopefully you've seen the show. Let's get into it. The last duo I'll be discussing is Socrates and the little white dude in the hallucinations. I don't know what to call them, I'm just going to call them little white dudes, and I'll probably say little white guys, but you know what I'm talking about if you've seen the show. Episode 8 of Common Side Effects answers the question of how to grow the mysterious blue mushroom, Socrates' feces. It is the perfect substrate for the fungi and is the key to more growth of the shroom. I believe Socrates is not to be trusted. The hidden pairing in the show that has been dictating the plot of the story is the being inside the mushroom, the little white dudes that people see during trips and in regular life after ingesting the mushroom once. And I think Socrates as well. This is my evidence for what I'm saying, because I know that this sounds a little crazy. Outside of Socrates being the key for growth of the mushroom, to me, something is off about how people interact with this tortoise. People become enamored with them without any prior connection, which feels similar to how people react to the mushroom, but without as much reason in my opinion. Throughout the show, when conversations or important plot points are taking place, the show will choose to focus on Socrates in brief moments, almost as if Socrates is also taking in the information being said. Marshall literally gets betrayed by everyone in the story too, so Socrates being another, while being crazy because it is a tortoise, wouldn't be out there for me to see. And when Wyatt, a child who is dealing with a severe breathing problem, takes the mushroom and is cured, we are shown that he is seeing the little white dude often in reality. And when he draws on Francis's wall the image of mushrooms growing out of Socrates' feces, the look the tortoise has on its face in the drawing is very angry, which is something we never see in the story. Do I believe Socrates is the Eren Yeager of this story? No. But I do think the situation is far more cataclysmic and the mushroom more parasitic than assumed in the beginning. Yes, by the end of the story, we start to realize that the side effects of this mushroom are severe and drastic, leading people to lose their minds and go crazy. Many people seeing the little white dude often, like Francis' mom, who takes the shroom, and the man Marshall saves from a car crash, who finds Marshall later pointing a gun at him, yelling he shouldn't have saved him and wishes he was dead. And while being dragged away, we see that all he sees all the time is little white dudes everywhere. One shot in particular I believe being very telling, where one of them is hiding behind someone's leg staring at Marshall. And this episode is the first time we see Marshall seeing the little white guy in regular life, even though he is the one who has taken the mushroom the most out of any character in the story. My theory is that the mushroom is hiding within Marshall's subconscious in order to continue to grow and to take over either the world's subconscious or to blend the dimension they exist in with reality. After watching episode 10, I believe that it is more blending the dimensions because of Francis and Marshall being able to communicate in the portal, but also because of Jonas being stuck within his own subconscious, and also that having its own manifestation where it left him catatonic and basically a vegetable. To me, that direction of the story makes sense because of the yin and yang the story presents. Do we continue to uplift capitalism and the pharmaceutical industry despite its negative effects on us as people? Or do we throw ourselves at an unknown solution that would stop the problem we know but may create one we are not prepared for? The complexity of power dynamics and internal moral conflict being supported by beautiful animation by Green Street Pictures that can heighten the funniest, trippiest, and darkest moments of this interesting and strange tale. Common Side Effects is a story about what affects us as people, from the micro to the macro problems, how dynamics can shift a perspective you thought was so true, and how drugs can alter you forever without the personal responsibility to know what you are taking. It's a beautiful story, and I hope you catch up for season 2. I'll see you there.